Hello, welcome back everybody. In the last video, we were able to just clean the data set, preparing it for what we're about to do. So we imported the data set. Of course, what we did was we renamed it. We checked the head of it. After checking the information data set, we realized that the us part an object column because there were some, texts and numbers there. So we forced it to be a numeric column, and then we dropped any missing values, right? And so we had a clean data set. At this point, let's just save this. I guess we saved it last time. Anyways, we can close this and continue what we're trying to do. So let's close this. Open up PyCharm. Let me just do this. So everything is going to be in the repository. After the video, I'm going to push it there and you can go play around with it in the repository. You can improve it, things like that. The main thing we're trying to do now is we're trying to create a Streamlit app. Okay, it's probably the first time. So let's open a new Python file. Let's call it auto MPG, let's see, dashboard. Okay, let's just add. First thing we want to do, let's import our libraries at the top. Streamlit as st, import pandas as pd, import numpy as np. What else do we need? I think this is fine for now. These are pretty much things we need. Okay, now let's create a function to load in the data set. But before we do that, let's close this. Let's close this terminal. Okay, cool. Let's stop the Jupyter server from running. Okay, Streamlit makes it so easy to build apps, and I'm just going to show you how easy that is. So let's do st-streamlit dot, let's say title. Say dashboard for auto MPG dataset. Okay, we save this. Then you come to the terminal and just do streamlit run, what's the name of the file? Auto underscore mpg underscore dashboard.py. And that's it. You have this beautiful interface right out of the box. You see, and that's why they claim, that's the Streamlit developers, that it's the easiest way to build data apps. So there's this menu. You can go to settings, Streamlit for teams. You can also check the documentation. You can record the screencast. Pretty cool stuff. You can go to the about page. So this just shows basic stuff. You can go here. Yeah. But anyways, that's not why we're here. So let's go back to what we're here for. So we have a title, which is great. Next, let's see what other things we can do. Okay, so I want us to write a function that is going to import the data set. So let's do that. Very easy to do that. So let's call it maybe load data. It collects no arguments. What do we want to do here? So we want to import the data frame. So import the data as a data frame. So the pd dot read csv, and we supply way is, so that's data slash. So what do we want? We want, okay, add this. Okay, we want the clean auto MPG. Okay, so let's just do that. Clean underscore. Okay, good. And return data frame. Okay, so we have this, and just to show you how easy it is to build stuff with Streamlit, I'm going to use this function. So, but let's put the docstring there. It's always a good idea. Let's say utility function for loading the auto MPG dataset as a data frame. Okay, it's always good to put docstrings. Okay, just come here, data equals load data. Put space here. Let's just put comments. Load data set. Quick. Just how easy it is to display data set using Streamlit. We do st.write. It's so easy. Just do data. And that's it. So you can set it to always rerun, and just like that. So you can see the data set right here. You can see this, the entire data set, right, is shown right here. This is so awesome. So right now, okay, so let's go back to the code. We've loaded the data set, we've been able to write it back. For a more appropriate way to write back data frames, you could do st.dataframe data equals data. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's, yeah, okay, cool. Can we run? Yeah, okay, just as a FYI. So what we want now is we want to use a sidebar. We want something pretty. So let's say st.sidebar.checkbox. So I want a checkbox that says review data. What we're trying to achieve now is we don't want to just always show the data, right? So we want that checkbox. So let's pass this as a variable. Let's call it checkbox. Don't know if I spelled, okay, I didn't spell that properly. Checkbox equals to, so instead of just displaying this all the time, right, let's use let me just add a comment here, checkbox widget. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we use a simple Python if statement. This is pure Python. We would say if checkbox, then it should show this. Okay, so let's just do that. We can, do this. Okay, so let's see what we get. So what this is saying is if checkbox is checked, show the data set. Okay, so let's even print checkbox just for our own information. So right now it's false. So you can see, so what this evaluates as if false, show the data set. So let's see what that is. You can see right now this is what we have. Okay, so the data set is not shown, but if we just do review, boom, it shows up. This is amazing. I don't know how many times I'll keep saying this is amazing, but it really is. Okay, let's go back to the code. Very, very simple. If we were to just implement this by ourselves, it's going to be some work for sure. Moving on. So now we have this. Next, we can go to the sidebar. right? So if you want something on the front page, you just use streamlit.write or streamlit. The actual function. But if you want it in the sidebar, we do streamlit.sidebar. That thing, right? So we want to be able to create scatter plots on the side, right? So let's do that. So create scatter plots. Okay. So what we're going to do is st.sidebar. Let's give it a subheader scatter plot setup. Okay, let's see what that does. Let me set this to always run. Okay, scatter plot setup. Okay, cool. Next we come here. What do we want to do here? Now we want to add some other widgets. So let's call it add select widget. Yeah, and that's really cool. So to add a select widget on the sidebar, we'll do st.sidebar.select box. Okay, so the select box requires two things, right? It requires us to have a label. Let's say this is x-axis. Options equals to, let's call it numeric columns. Now you'd see we of course we haven't defined numeric columns, so we can just come here and get the numeric columns. So let's go back on here, the data side. Say this. So what we're trying to do is we want to be able to plot X or Y graphs. And of course, for you to do scatter plots, your options have to be numeric. So say numeric. So this should be underscore. Numeric columns. Numeric underscore. So that's going to be equals to data dot. Now this is, I'm using a pandas function. What this pandas function does is it selects certain data types and puts them into a data frame. So we want it to collect float. Let's say float 64. Or let's just say, we can just say float 64, float 32, float, no, you can do int 32, int 64. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to just get we're just trying to get all the numeric columns. Okay, so this is a data frame and we just want the columns of it. So dot columns. Okay, so if we print this, we can see what it is. Print numeric. Can you see that? So you see that it just prints the numeric columns, which is great. So what we've done is we got the numeric columns, and now those are the options for the select box widget. So let's give it a name. Say select box 1. That's not a very fancy name, but I think it will do. So you see here, you have everything on this side. But one thing we see is in this data frame, we want this to be the column. Don't know why this is this way, but yeah, you can select this, you can select that. Let's go and print select box 1. So print select box 1. So right now it's on cylinders, right? So if we change it to say displacement, let's look at code. What do we see? Displacement. Okay. Next, let's add a second select box, right? So select box 2 equals st dot sidebar dot select box. Now the label here is going to be, let's call this y-axis. We want the options to be numeric columns as well. Okay, let's, well, we can print. We don't need to print, it's fine. Okay, let's see what this looks like. So you see, by just creating that variable, we have a second axis, right? So we can choose not to, we can select. So what do we want as our x, what do we want as our y? Awesome. Let's go back to the code. Now for plotting, we're going to use Seaborn. Okay, we're actually going to use Seaborn to plot a scatter plot. And if you're not familiar with Seaborn, I can just bring it up here so you can see what Seaborn is. Let's go to Seaborn documentation. Seaborn is a nice, go to tutorial. We want relating variables with scatter plots, right? So Seaborn is another amazing library for data visualization. It's really, really awesome and it's great. So we can come here, and this is pretty much what we want. When you want scatter plots, this is how you can use Seaborn to create those scatter plots. So what we're going to just do is we're going to go ahead and see how we can incorporate that into Streamlit. Okay, one thing I want to do now is, notice we didn't import Seaborn up here. Let's import Seaborn as SNS. Okay, now let's set this style for Seaborn. And there are several styles. You can check the Seaborn documentation, but I love to use this dark grid style. Just looks a bit better than matplotlib. Okay, yeah, dark grid. Let's save. So we did that. Now what we want to do is, let's say create scatterplot. We're going to leverage Seaborn in Streamlit. One good thing about so let's make our scatter plot. It's a relationship plot with rel plot, and you can see deduction already shows us what we want. We want x to be equals to, we want x to be equals to select box 1. So let's say select box 1. We want y to be equals to select box 2. I want the data to be equals to, what did we call it over? Okay, we call it data. Okay, so let's save, and we should see some beautiful plots, right? Let's come here. You notice there was no plot. Okay, there's no plot. We're expecting to see a plot somewhere here, and we don't see a plot. Why? So the reason is this. Yes, we have the plot image here, but to show it in Streamlit, you have to call a function. So streamlit.pyplot, and that's all you have. That's all you have to put. So let's go back and see, and boom, this is what you have. Okay, of course we can change. Our name is not even supposed to be there in the first place, but let's say displacement and horsepower. Okay, so you can see this shows the displacement on the x-axis, the horsepower on the y-axis. Of course, as the engine gets bigger, you expect that the horsepower should also increase. Of course, we expect this kind of relationship. Let's see what we do this. You do this is center stage, which is really, really neat if you think about it. So let's say displacement and, you know what, let's change this displacement to weight. Okay, it's interesting because there seems to be a direct relationship between the weight of the car and the horsepower, but if you really think about it, it's most likely the other way around. So a higher horsepower probably needs a bigger engine, and of course that makes for additional weight and things like that. So yeah, looks good. So let's just go ahead and add an histogram, but we're going to just do that in the next video. So for right now, I'm just going to wrap this up. This is a very long video already. I'll see you in the next video.